and welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thank you all for tuning in today. It's just Jenna and I here recording and talking, and we're here to celebrate the big birthday we just had. Whose birthday was it, Jenna?
Fritz just had his first birthday on August 3rd, so it's Monday. We celebrated last Thursday. When this comes out, it'll be about a week since his first birthday, and the zoo made it a huge deal.
Yeah, it was so much fun. There were events going on, not just in Hippo Cove, but across the zoo we had stuff going on. It was a really good time. Fritz seemed to enjoy himself, right? He had a good birthday.
So. Yeah, I had the best day ever. We had so many fun things to do. It's funny because we don't always go all out like zoo-wide birthday parties for all of our animals.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. There's so many animals. You can't do it for every animal. And it's hard to pick and choose. And I know that's kind of a point of contention sometimes, but Fritz deserved it, right? I like to think he did.
Right. Like, people ask, would he be as popular if he weren't Fiona's brother? And that's hard to say. Obviously, Fiona has drawn a huge crowd of hippo lovers that never existed before her.
Definitely.
And so, had she not been here and Fritz were born, I'm sure everyone would love the cute little baby hippo. But I don't know if he would be, quite as popular, right?
Maybe not.
In general.
I think locally he'd probably be just as popular. He might just not have quite the reach that he has because our social media department does have quite a big following and a big reach because of Fiona. But,
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, probably. Obviously, we think he was deserving of this
yes.
big party, but it is hard when not all of the animals get this because truly the entire zoo celebrated. Animals like the lions, the red pandas, all throughout the zoo were celebrating with watermelon-themed enrichment because Fritz was born on August 3rd, which is the National Watermelon Day, which is just too perfect because hippos, as everyone knows, love watermelons, and everyone loves to watch them eat watermelons.
And he's still kind of the shape of a giant watermelon, so it kind of fits.
He definitely is. So he had a theme of one in a melon instead of one in a million. Very cute. Everything was watermelon-themed all over the zoo. There was even an incredible watermelon carver. I think he typically does pumpkins, but I think his Instagram is Wicked Designs something. I should have looked that up before this, but he was so good.
Oh my, his designs were incredible. He did a BB watermelon, a Tucker, a Fiona, a Fritz, and it was almost photorealistic. It was incredible the work that he did.
Yes, his carvings were better than a lot of the drawings. Well, 10 times better than a lot of the drawings that aren't trying to be realistic, right? They were so good. It's wicked_designs_carving. If you guys want to check it out. The zoo posted a bunch of these too. But the watermelons were amazing. I think he does pumpkins and things.
It was to the point where they looked so nice. I was afraid to touch them. I didn't want to feed them out to any animals, or we shouldn't eat them because they look so nice.
I don't know actually what happened to those. They mentioned giving them to the elephants.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where those went. They were so pretty. I wouldn't have wanted to destroy them.
They should be framed. Is there any way you can keep them from rotting and decomposing?
We'll just have to have them back. So we had the watermelon carvings that people could watch as he did them, and they were displayed throughout the day. We had, I think it's called Card Your Yard, came and put all of these little, not flags, what would you call those? They're cardboard designs. Fritz's one, and cutouts of Fritz's face, and watermelons, and party.
It's one of those yard stamp kind of things. You put them in your yard when you have a graduate or something like that. Yeah, you always see them for graduation time. But yeah, we had Fritz ones. We had a couple different areas where they were at. There were the entryway to the Africa habitat. There was a really big one in Vine Street Village that made for a great photo op. I saw tons of people posing in front for the day. Yeah,
so many photo ops. Let's see. There was watermelon Dole Whip. There was even a special cocktail for Fritz. I mean, watermelon hippo themed. I forget what it was called. We didn't get to try that.
I missed that one. I'll say. I guess that's when you're working. I guess you can't partake. But
and then watermelon candy. So it was a really fun time. Yeah. And then of course we had all sorts of things. We did a hippo breakfast that morning that kept me really busy with lots of talking. The news wanted to hear about Fritz, so we did interviews, and then of course our Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And since the theme was one in a melon, we of course had a watermelon themed cake that our nutritionist Barbara Henry and her intern helped us make, and it looked really nice. And we gave them real watermelon, which was a huge hit. Ice cakes always look amazing, but the animals, well, at least the hippos, sometimes are this is too cold, or I'll wait for it to melt in the pool before they go for it.
Yeah, they just want the actual watermelon.
Yes.
Yeah. And I meant to ask you about that because we had a couple things going on in our department that day. I actually didn't get to see it when he got his cake.
Bad.
So I saw kind of the social media videos, but like fill me in from the first person point of view. Like, how'd it go? How did he react?
Well, first of all, everyone was very upset about where we put the cake, and I have to address this. I was booed and yelled at so much. I had to turn around and ask the crowd to calm down. It was out of control. So we were trying to set up the cake so that the Facebook Live could see it, right? So that Angela and our PR team could film it and get a good view of it.
Because I'm sure there were thousands of people tuned in on Facebook Live,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's only so many viewing areas where you can see the cake, and it would be there for the hippos would be there for the Facebook Live, and it's not directly on sand. And, all these, we only have a few spots that we can put it. So, man, everyone was very excited, and we had to move the cake and make sure everyone was happy. But I was like, oh my gosh, people are intense. So we had hundreds of people.
It's all that passion for Fritz, you know? People are passionate about this
sure
boy.
Are. Hundreds of people at Hippo Cove celebrating. Oh, we had cake and ice cream, too, from Graders and Buskers.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
But people were here staking out their, viewing opportunities hours before this 2:30 live. The whole cove was full, and we tried really hard to send out Fritz by himself. So had it set up so that, the other hippos were separated from him, which we don't separate him from Bibi for too long, usually just for breakfast and dinner, and most of the time he has access where he can go to her if he wanted to anyways. It's not like a full separation.
And it's short spurts, right? Yes. It's only 5 or 10 minutes here or there, yeah.
And we're always in the barn, so if something were to, be stressful for him or Bibi, then we can open doors. But I kept him really well fed, went around, asked Teresa to open the door for him to come out, and he wouldn't. He was just a little baby. He didn't want to come out without Bibi.
So, he was just too shy for his first birthday.
Yeah, so he peeked his head around the corner, but he decided he wasn't ready, and so we waited a few minutes, and 4 minutes went by. The Facebook Live was going with nothing happening.
Oh no!
And so I was texting Teresa okay, just send Bibi out with him. But we always try and give the birthday hippo their chance at these at the cake first. But Bibi
because anyone who's seen Bibi knows she can be a bit of a hog when it comes to the food and the treats. So lovingly so, she deserves all of it.
Definitely.
But yeah,
it was funny when they finally came out. They both stopped directly dead center of the habitat and looked at everyone, and Fritz kind of looked overwhelmed because everyone started screaming and cheering and clapping, and I think that was the point they sang happy birthday, and he just looked around side to side and sat down for a second, I think, and then he got back up, and Bibi stopped with him. I was surprised she didn't go right to the cake.
I saw a video of that. It looked pretty surreal, honestly. It looked like a really cool moment.
He was soaking it all in, also what's happening? So they came over, and we had a watermelon that had his name carved out of it, and Bibi smashed that for him, and he got all the little pieces, and we let them enjoy that for a few minutes, and then sent Fiona and Tucker out, and Tucker was trying to get to the cake. He was braver than I expected him to be. And, they're all in that kind of little corner, and he approached, and Bibi told him no. So he left, and he came around, but it was perfect because while Bibi and Fiona and Fritz, while the others were getting the ice cake and the watermelon that Bibi had, broken into pieces, Tucker came through the water and came right to the wall. So he was able to get a watermelon from me, directly into his mouth. Oh,
perfect, perfect.
So that was fun for everyone to see. He's gigantic, and oftentimes will not come directly to the wall for the watermelon. So we have to, juggle the decision of, do we toss this 15-pound watermelon into his mouth? It was probably heavier than that. The one I had was giant, specifically for Fritz's birthday. But sometimes you'll try and throw the smaller ones, and you're like, should I throw it? Should I just throw it in front of him and hope he gets it? But he came right to the wall for it. And
that's perfect. And it's always such an incredible moment, too, when they do get the full watermelon, and you kind of see the juxtaposition of the watermelon. It's so big in our hands, and then it looks so small once it's in their mouth, and they just chomp down in one bite. It never gets old watching that, honestly.
It never does. And their bite force is 1,800 psi, so the strongest of any mammal. So those watermelons don't really stand a chance, but it's still always really impressive to watch. And then, of course, he took it underwater a little bit, so watermelon just started floating everywhere, and eventually all the other hippos came in and got that. But yeah, Fritz came up and got some smaller watermelon pieces from us right at the wall, and he went right to the window sometimes, too, and gave the crowd a show, so that was really fun.
Just like his sister, Fiona. Yes. He knows how to put on a show. This boy knows.
Yes, somebody actually asked me at the breakfast that morning, if I think he learned that from Fiona, if he like goes towards the crowd because he's seen her do that. And honestly, I don't think so. For a few reasons. Like, from the first week, he was like the bravest, friendliest little hippo. He would come right up to us and like check us out. And you hear from other keepers that have experience with more calves than we do that like sometimes the moms are so protective you don't see the baby for a while. Like they'll kind of box them out and you block your view of them inside. Or the calves can be shy or like hesitant to approach people. But he was not from like day one essentially.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, him and BB went out alone for the first few weeks, right? So he didn't have like that learning from her then.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of, unfortunately, she's fine, but unfortunately kept away. Even when the three of them were outside together for the longest time, like BB didn't allow them to really interact for a while.
Yeah, she kind of laid the ground rules and made it known Fiona needed to keep her distance with Fritz. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially at the start.
And Fritz was still going up to the windows, and he chooses the little window all the time, and I think it's just a really good sleeping spot for them. For whatever reason, it's perfect because there's a window there, and it's shallow, and they like it, so people can get great photo ops. So, I don't know, maybe he learned some from Fiona, but BB also does that, and every once in a while you even catch Tucker doing it.
Yeah.
So it could just be, like, runs in the family sort of thing.
Could be. And I do think that, like, who's to say? Maybe it is a little bit from Fiona, but in my opinion, I think it's just as much from BB. Like, kind of like you had mentioned, you hear a lot of stories about hippo moms, and they can be very protective and defensive of their calves, which they should be. But from day one, BB was so calm with us. She was totally fine with us interacting with Fritz. She felt completely safe in that kind of environment. Like, you would see BB chase away Fiona, and she would chase away Tucker. She never chased us away, and she was always comfortable with us interacting with him. So I think he learned probably just as much from BB as he did from anyone else. Like,
yes, definitely. Like his calm demeanor and like friendliness could definitely be attributed to BB. And you see Fiona going up to the cameras more, but that could be a little bit of age. And of course, she would like grew up around the cameras, right in her face. But BB will do that too. So yeah, I definitely think it's a combination of. Or, like, a lot you can attribute to BB and her personality. She may not be quite the ham that Fiona is.
Well, no one is. But
maybe that's age, right? Yes. That's true. But, yeah, BB was wonderful. Usually, you don't get a weight on a hippo calf for a while, or it can be difficult. So we weren't sure what to expect when Fritz was born. And we were able to get a weight on him on day 3. So he was born August 3rd. Around, I was going to say 3 a.m. That's Fiona's story. What was that? Around 7 or 8?
I'll say it was like 8:30 or 9.
Yes, it wasn't too late.
It was like right at dusk, right as the sun was kind of setting. Yeah.
Yes. So we tried to leave him alone for the first few days, and then we had BB walk across the scale on August 6th. And I remember it was just like Wendy kind of tossing her food in front of BB so she would keep moving, and he was just like right on her hip. So I was like, I don't know if we're going to get him to stop with BB off of the scale. But I just like gently like put my hand out in front of his face, and he just froze for just long enough. He didn't seem like scared or anything, but we made it really, really quick, and we were able to get a weight on him without BB on the scale, and he was 87 pounds. So we estimate roughly he was probably 80 pounds at birth. They typically gain 3 to 5 pounds a day. Like we originally said 3 to 4 pounds, but there were definitely days where he was gaining 5 pounds.
For sure. Yeah.
And, which is just incredible. Just from nursing, it's wild. But we're really lucky to have that scale. It's just built into the ground, so we can weigh our hippos very easily every day if we wanted to. It's not really necessary. And it is different. With adult hippos, they can go to the bathroom and lose literally 50 pounds. Like,
for sure. Or after a big meal, too, they gain a bunch of weight. Yeah.
Yeah, so with adult hippos, if they gain or lose 30, 50 pounds in a day, it's really, we don't count it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's like 1% of their body weight, right? That'd be like us losing 1 pound or 1.5 pounds. It's kind of negligible, yeah.
Right. Fritz was about 80 pounds when he was born, and we announced during the Facebook Live, we had like a contest going on throughout the zoo for employees. They were able to guess what Fritz would weigh on his birthday. So 5 people, actually 4 out of, we were allowing 5 people to be the winners. So the 5 closest guesses get to come meet Fritz and like have a little interaction with him here at the zoo. So those were all zoo employees only. But 4 out of those 5 guesses were exactly right. They guessed 721 pounds, which is, of course, what he weighed. So they were
incredible.
Dead on. Yes, I was very impressed. And I thought he would definitely be closer to 750. He slowed down this last month a ton. It's been more like a pound a day, or he even was at 724 at one point this in July. And then of course, the moment I weighed
the
him,
morning
he was
of,
721. So it can fluctuate some, but yeah, there were some really good guesses.
But still, 721. That means you're talking he gained in 1 year 650-ish pounds, roughly. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Like,
but he still looks so small, like a baby.
I know, he does.
It's hard to remember him like any smaller than what he was.
I know.
But yeah, it was a really fun day, and I think he got all the treats he could have ever asked for. With the Hippo Breakfast, for anyone who doesn't know, it's an event. It's much easier to be a part of than the Hippo Tour. So if you want to do something special, and you can't either manage to snag one of those really popular tours to meet the hippos, or can't afford it, the breakfast, I'm not sure exactly how much it runs, but I want to say less than $100.
I think it's $75.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the number's about $75 a person.
Yeah.
So much more affordable than the tours.
Yes.
And it's still such a cool experience. Yeah.
You get to come in early before the zoo opens. They feed you breakfast, and then you go to one animal area. For example, on Fritz's birthday, it was a 30-minute chat with the hippos for half the group, and the other half was getting a chat from our reptile keepers about the Galapagos tortoises. And then when we finish those first chats, you switch and go to the area you weren't just at. So it's like before the zoo opens, you have the zoo to yourself. We do extra enrichment, and you get to hear about the hippos, and it's like a 40-person or so group. So you get to see them up close, and just there's not as much of a crowd or whatnot. So they got extra produce for that too, because I was, tossing that. They got to do their favorite enrichment. Well, at least it's my favorite to watch. The honey with the squash sticking to the window. So yeah, it was a really fun day.
Yeah, it's awesome when our dive team, they're the ones kind of responsible for helping us facilitate that enrichment. It's always so fun to watch. Fiona especially, she'll get on her hind legs and she'll be standing up against the glass and licking the glass like a dog. It's so fun.
Fritz was trying so hard. Like, he would have to kind of like push off the bottom and try and
bob up out of the water.
Bob long enough to grab some. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But he's come a long way. He is a very, very friendly hippo, but different than Fiona. Mm-hmm. So I think their personalities are, I mean, not like drastically different, but Fiona never took a nap without touching BB, right? Like, no matter what, inside or outside, at nighttime or daytime naps, she was always like in the crook of BB's neck, or like resting on her somewhere. Even like if they were on the beach, I feel like she was always like her nose was touching BB's side or back or something somehow. Fritz is the opposite. Like, he's very independent from a very young age. BB would go into the pool. He would have every opportunity to be in the pool resting with BB, and he would be wherever the people were. Yeah. And he would like to get in the drinkers, which was always so fun to see. Like,
adorable.
How many gallons do you think those are? Like 50-gallon drinkers?
Probably about that, yeah.
Is that too much? I'm bad at guessing that sort of thing.
No, I'd say 30 or 40, probably somewhere in there, yeah.
So big enough that like a 200-pound hippo could fit in them, where he just
barely, perfectly snug inside the drinker.
So he did that for as long as he could. He's much too big for it now, but he would nap in there and just watch us, whatever we were doing, instead of like hanging out with BB. If there's like they're eating breakfast and they finish, he'll go nap in one stall while BB's in the other, like finishing up scraps. If we're doing training with Tucker, oh my gosh, Fritz always gets as close as possible to us. Yeah. There's like a little a baby-proofing chain thing that he can't get through, but he like sneaks his head under and just watches us. Like, it's so cute while BB is off in the pool. Yeah. I don't know why he does that.
BB will be on her own. He just watches us train Tucker, and then right after training with Tucker, we'll give him a few snacks, just a couple of little treats.
Always the leftovers Fritz gets. And he loves toys, which Fiona liked toys, but she would never play with them for hours. Oh, man. So he will play with them for, like, you'll walk in the door at 7 a.m. and you don't know how long he's been playing with them, but you can probably assume for a while. We can always go back and look on cameras, but then some days he just won't come out for breakfast until like 8:30. Yeah. So he's just playing for...
Have you noticed, does he seem to have a favorite toy?
I mean, we've talked about the green cylinder in the past, and I definitely think that's one of his favorites. I think size-wise, it's good for him. Yeah. But I recently gave him that giant white floating toy. It's a square. It's the size of like...
the iceberg toy?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, kind of. But it's really big and square. I guess you can consider it an iceberg, but we have the different ones that are different shapes.
Yeah.
Anyways, people probably don't know what we're talking about, but it's like the size of a dining room table.
Yeah,
or like
I know
a kitchen.
About.
Yeah. And so he's been playing with that a lot.
That's interesting. I figure that one might be a little bit too big for him almost, because it's that thing's massive, and he's still a little boy. He's still pretty small.
Baby, but no, I like put it in the stalls at night and put food on top, so they have to like climb up and push it around to get food, and it always ends up in the water the next day. So one of them is pushing it in. It's very heavy, and then in the mornings he's like bobbing up and down with it. Oh my goodness. So. But I think he still prefers the cylinder.
Yeah. Have you noticed any like favorite particular foods that he likes? Any produce or grain or anything that he seems to like more than anything else?
I think he moves quicker for lettuce, than grain. So if I pour a grain down and he doesn't come, then I'll try and like show him lettuce, and he'll come right away. He is really good though at shifting. Like he knows now that he goes into a certain stall for his food, or he eats hers.
He's finally figured the routine out a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, and we haven't tried those. We were trying like tomatoes and grapefruit for a while when he was really little, and he would eat those more than the adults. And I don't know if that was just like because he was little or his taste buds are different.
He was curious. Maybe he's nibbling on stuff. Yeah.
For sure. But since we noticed they don't really like tomatoes or grapefruit, we cut them out of their diet so we weren't wasting food. It wasn't necessary. It was just for fun.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he would eat one of those today. We should probably like check it out and see. Just order one tomato and see if he would like it. Just see if he
goes for it.
But he definitely wasn't picky, and he loves his grain and hay. And of course, they all seem to like sweet things, so it's hard to say. Yeah. But he definitely would choose lettuce over like grain.
Okay,
so it stands out to him.
That's interesting, though. I feel like he's definitely over the last couple months, he's definitely gotten a lot more food motivated. Yes. Like there was a stretch there where he would eat the solid foods, but he wasn't super interested in them, and now he'll kind of like shift and do what he needs to for like produce, especially like lettuce. I noticed. Do you still see him nursing a lot?
So not a lot, but he is still nursing. We actually saw it on his birthday during the breakfast, or right after the breakfast.
Oh, no way.
He was nursing. So
perfect timing.
Typically, we've read and studies say that hippos nurse about 8 to 12 months. But I think it's probably individual, like what the mom will like allow, what she's producing, and the individual calf, just like humans all vary. But we'll keep an eye on it and see how long he ends up nursing. But it's not as often. You definitely don't catch it every day. And it could be more overnight, like when we're not around to catch it, too. But he is definitely still nursing at least once a day.
That's a fun timestamp, too, that you saw it on the morning of his birthday.
Yeah, it's perfect. But yeah, he does have teeth. All of his molars are pretty, I think they're all there. And he has little tiny nubs of tusks coming in. So it'll be interesting to see those grow as he gets bigger, and it'll make him look a lot older. I feel like Fiona's mouth now looks like she's an adult.
I know, it really does.
And he's doing a lot of, or at least some training, so I'm really excited. He does the best open mouth behavior ever. So when we ask them to open their mouths, we're looking at their teeth, trying to make sure everything's healthy and their gums are fine, and if there are parts in the front of their mouth that we can safely pick out anything that seems stuck between their gum and their teeth, we'll do that. So we asked them to open their mouths, and BB just begs. BB will hold her mouth open all day long if you need her to. So yes, she really is just like this very confident, easy to work with hippo. Fiona will open her mouth really wide, but she doesn't hold it for long. And I've like really been struggling to get her to just hold it for like 5 seconds. She just wants the food. And if you put food in her mouth, she immediately closes and chews.
She's literally like the game of Hungry Hippos. Like it's just chomp after chomp after chomp. It's like, Fiona, we need you to hold it steady for a little bit.
Yes. And where BB, you can put a whole head of lettuce like one leaf at a time, and she'll just wait for you to continue putting more and keep it open. So there's differences there, but Fritz will hold his open for like 10 seconds, like really, really wide. And it's hilarious at the wall. I don't know if you've noticed this during tours, but he has to like climb the wall a little bit. But if you don't feed him like as quickly as he wants to, he just reaches his neck as tall, like as long as possible, and holds his mouth open so wide. It's really impressive, but it's like, in my eyes, his form of begging. Like, like, come on, like trying to get more attention.
He's like, please, I'm right here. Yes.
So he's really good at the open mouth behavior. He definitely, I think he's like 90% there on being completely trained on the backup behavior. So I'm really proud of him for that. It's really fun to see them catch on to that. I essentially just like hold lettuce behind their ear and give like a little backup behavior. And then if they don't back up right away or take a step back, I just drop the lettuce. So they have to take a step back to get it. And I click when they move their foot backwards. So he's definitely getting a hang of that, which is really fun to see. And then he does incredible with me touching his ears. So like the criteria for the ear touch to be like it's not really trained behavior, but desensitized is if I touch the ear, they shouldn't wiggle it. And he doesn't wiggle at all, either ear, so he's very good at that. And yeah, we'll work on some more behaviors as he gets a little older. I think we'll probably start doing like the lean in so we can do blood draws or different things like that. And he just seems really smart and eager to train. So
yeah, he's gotten very eager for sure. Do you notice anything like personality wise? Like, how would you compare and contrast him versus Fiona when Fiona was this age? Like,
it's so hard because their lives are completely different.
Like, their upbringings have been opposites, basically. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. Just the independent part is the thing that I see so different. Fiona was always by BB's side, where Fritz is either on his own or actually more likely to be with Tucker than BB if he's awake. Like, he definitely still sleeps with BB. I'm not saying they don't sleep together, but like there are so many times when Fritz just goes and takes a nap by himself. But he loves Tucker so much.
He does. It's so cute.
It's so cute. I mean, yeah, he's definitely more independent, but they're both very friendly, very human-oriented, very... well, actually, we need to try Bubbles with him. We should have done that before this episode. I was going to say, like, he seems brave. Fiona is definitely... like, gets scared of the weirdest things that I wouldn't think would, like, make her nervous. For example, if you blow bubbles towards Fiona, she freaks out.
Terrified. We do bubble enrichment for a lot of our animals. A lot of them think it's really interesting and like to watch the bubbles or even pop the bubbles, but like Fiona was horrified.
Yeah.
You know?
We've tried it like once a year, every year, and she's still like scared. So we try not to like terrorize her. We only do it once in a while just to see. But like a bubble bath didn't scare her. It's like when a bubble is floating towards her, she just like doesn't understand. And she's the clumsiest animal I've ever worked with. Oh my
goodness.
She's like slips and falls and takes off running. And she definitely had the zoomies way more than Fritz. And it could be space that I don't get to see them. But I remember her running definitely inside all the time. Like in a big like horseshoe, she would just get the zoomies.
Now that you mention it, I wouldn't have thought about that. But now that you mention it, I do remember with Fiona, like every night at close, when they would come inside, she would do laps around the barn. And I don't think I've ever seen Fritz do that. So like, that is interesting. And she would do it like on the beach and just come like, barreling in, and he doesn't do that. So that's definitely a difference. And I don't know, again, with 4 hippos versus 2, there's like less space for him to just start running around. So that could have to do with it. And I think he's also got a little more outlet because there's more hippos to interact with. He's got a little more outlets for his energy. But you kind of mentioned it though. To me, the Tucker-Fritz dynamic is so adorable. Like, Fritz has always been obsessed with Tucker, and it was funny because before it would get Tucker in trouble, right? Like when BB was still not comfortable with Tucker interacting with Fritz, she would kind of discipline Tucker, but it was Fritz that started it because Fritz wanted to be near Tucker. But now that they've kind of crossed that line and they're also comfortable with each other, it's been really fun seeing like Tucker learn how to interact with Fritz in a comfortable, safe way so that BB doesn't get angry or upset, and like Fritz is just so enamored with him. There's plenty of days where I'll walk out there and it's just the two of them on the beach, just sleeping in the sand. I love it.
I wish we knew why that happened, because it's not typical that the males would like hang out with their calves after they're born. They're going to try and get as many females pregnant as possible and don't really have much to do with their calves. But it's funny, Fritz is often at the wrong end of Tucker when he goes to the bathroom. So there have been so many hilarious photos of Fritz just covered in hippo poop, Tucker's poop specifically.
It seems inevitable, and for some reason Fritz just barely reacts when it happens. Like,
I don't think he cares. I have seen like photos where he like lays down or sits down right after, and from everything we know, that's like a sign of submission, or he's like, yes, you're the boss. So I don't know if that was another question one of the guests asked, like, is Tucker doing it on purpose? Is it coincidence? Is it bad timing? Like, why is Fritz always at that end when he's dung showering? And I truly don't know. It could be a sign of Tucker, like, claiming his territory and his dominance, but I don't know.
But Tucker also uses the restroom so
all
often.
The time. Yes, so it's like, it could just be coincidence. Or Fritz is always following him around. It's bound to happen, right? Oh, yes. But, and speaking of Tucker, like, we've given you an update on Fritz and BB and Fiona. There aren't a ton of updates. They're doing really well. And they're just living their best lives. All 4 of them are sleeping together almost every afternoon. You'll notice the 4 of them. resting on one another, which was like our goal. We wanted to, we would, in our minds, we have a happy, healthy bloat of hippos if they're all sleeping together, and that's what they're doing. So we're really happy to report that.
Could you just explain a little bit about why that was our goal? Like, why we wanted to see that behavior so badly?
Well, yeah, so in the wild, you would see up to 40 or so hippos, depending on the amount of water and resources available, all like living in one large group called a bloat or a pod, and they use each other to like rest their chins on their backs and just have like easier time sleeping, which they can come up for a breath without waking up. It's just like a natural reflex. But if they can, they'll sleep with their nostrils above water. And so that's just a really natural behavior that they would all be in close proximity and like touching one another while they sleep. So we wanted to see that. We were hoping to see that before BB ever got pregnant. Like we wanted to see her and Tucker and Fiona like so cohesive and doing so well together that, you know, they were sleeping next to one another and choosing to spend time together as much as possible before having a baby. But as we all know, one of the reasons Fritz has his name is BB's birth control was on the Fritz. We've learned a lot since then. Yeah. Our crew scientists have done a wonderful job at figuring a lot out, and along with our veterinary staff, that it's probably more weight-based for hippos, and we've upped the dosage for BB, and we do not expect any more whoopsies. But humans have whoopsies all the time, and there are millions of women to study with different types of birth control. So we give ourselves a little bit of grace that we don't have like hippo birth control like figured out to the T. But so we obviously had a baby come before we expected, and then with that, the mothers take their calves away for imprinting and bonding and keeping their calves safe. So it made sense that she didn't really want to sleep next to Tucker for a while. They still didn't, like they never really got that chance to form their individual relationship.
Before Fritz came along.
Exactly, yeah. But we're definitely at that point, so they all four sleep together, and like you mentioned, BB's like, go ahead, you go follow your dad, I'm gonna rest over here. But we've seen a lot of, I don't know if changes is the right word, but a lot of growth from Tucker in the sense that if he doesn't come to the wall these days, it's not because of us or because of his keepers that he's not trusting or he's nervous or something. It's only if BB's outside. So if Tucker's ever out there on his own, he will come right to the keepers, right to the wall. He just tries not to cause any issues, so he doesn't push any of BB's buttons by trying to get food at the same time that she does.
But even then, I do feel like BB's gotten more comfortable with him over time, though. Because, like, it seems like I don't do, obviously, nearly as many tours as you do over there. But when I do, they're a little sporadic, maybe every other week or so. And it seems like every couple weeks he gets a little bit closer to the wall and a little bit closer to the wall. Definitely. He's inching his way over.
At the beginning of the season, Tucker wouldn't even leave the other side of the habitat to
like he'd be over by the waterfall when you were at the wall. Okay.
And so I'd say, oh, you guys are so lucky. Like the first few, I'm like, Tucker never comes. Like this is like very rare. And now I don't say that anymore because he almost always comes. He may not come to the wall. So if he comes to the wall, I'm like, this is very rare.
Yeah.
But he's usually like 5 to 10 feet back, and we can toss him food. But he joins the group for the tours all the time now.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big change. And then the training we've been doing, Tucker actually has a tooth that's misaligned. So essentially, if he were human, he would just have braces, and it happens all the time in the wild. So it's not a huge deal by any means. But because he's in our care and we can do something to help, we've been trying to help Tucker with this tooth that he has. So they should rub together, the outer canines, top and bottom should rub together and act like scissors, and they're like self-sharpening. They should fit together perfectly. But because his top left canine is in a different placement, it's a little bit further up and out from his jaw where it should be.
It's angled not quite correctly too, yeah.
Yeah, so it like when he closes his mouth, the bottom one doesn't really touch it. Not enough to actually like grind against it and cause the shape that would be most comfortable for his mouth. So we've done a lot of desensitizing to him. Do you remember when we started that? How long it's been? Maybe like 6 months?
I was about to say, I want to say it was the start of the year. I want to say it was maybe December or January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking March. But either way, around the beginning of 2023, we started desensitizing Tucker to, I should start with, Tucker's so big that his head doesn't fit through the gates like the girls do in Fritz. So we had to modify a gate to do any like mouth behaviors with Tucker because he couldn't fit it through for him to open and for us to do things safely.
So we had to schedule time for the maintenance crew to get in here and re-weld a new gate and put new metal working in. It was a whole ordeal just to make the apparatus comfortable for Tucker.
Yes. So they made us a big window that we could like open and close, and then we had them like change it again. So we're thankful for them and their effort. Now we have it so we have removable like bars that are each hippo's height, or roughly like will work for each hippo, so that soon we will start doing training with x-rays or radiographs so that we make sure any tooth work we're doing, we know exactly how far we can sand or grind or file or whatever safely, and just to get a better look at their mouths and more knowledge in general. So we modified a gate for all sorts of things, but mostly for Tucker's giant head. And then we got him used to coming in and like hanging out with keepers on the other side of the gate. And he's in like a chute area. So he would have the potential. The back is always open. He can leave at any time. It's always his choice. But it is like a more confined space. So we weren't sure if he'd be comfortable with that, but he is. And then we have literally, well, I kind of jumped ahead. His tooth being not in the perfect spot means that his bottom tooth is actually putting pressure on his upper gums, and we noticed that, and so we decided we should take length off of that bottom one, even though it's already shorter than the others, just because of the placement. It puts pressure on his gums that we would rather not him have to deal with. So by taking length off, we can help him with that. So that's the reason being we started using electric grinder. We just like had the sound next to him. It's very loud.
It is.
I mean, I would be terrified if somebody was just putting that in my mouth.
For sure, yeah.
He's very brave, and at this point now he allows us to grind his tooth with an electric sander or grinder for 5 to 10 seconds at a time. We spray it with water, toss in some lettuce, and do it all over again for like 10 or 15 minutes, and a couple of times a week, like 3 to 4 times a week, and I think we've taken off at least an inch, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So we are seeing huge improvements with that gum. It's not swollen. It's not as red as it was.
Yeah.
There aren't like the cracks or anything that we were seeing. So I'm really impressed with him. He's doing great.
He's really incredible. And like the strides that he's made from the beginning, like you said, when we first started, I mean, he was hesitant just to come up to that gate area once we modified that door. He was a little bit freaked out by that. And the fact that he'll come up, he rests his chin on that gate for us, and he holds still. He's really wonderful. And I gotta stress like the amount of time it takes, because you mentioned we've got an electric grinder. You would think like, oh, that thing just grinds the tooth right away. We're taking off, I don't know, what would you say, 1 millimeter a day? Like,
yes,
it is hardly anything that you take off, and that's progress, right? So over the course of 6 or 7 months, we've taken off an inch or so, and that is incredible progress. And Tucker's just been fantastic every step of the way.
Yes, he's such a good boy. Like, everyone always jokes that they want to kiss or hug the hippos, or specifically Fiona. I'm like, she is the most erratic to me. Like, she would be the last one I would like put my head really close to. And Tucker, I mean, BB's probably the same, but Tucker is just so calm. And like, even though he's only been here 2 years and it's not what he's like grown up with, I would trust Tucker like a lot more than Fiona, even though she's like the most human oriented. And maybe that's why, I don't know. She's just like too comfortable.
And she's just very excitable.
Yes.
Like, little things just get her really pumped and that's fun, and we love that about her. But Tucker's just always chill. It seems like he's always just kind of zen. He's never moving too quickly. He's always in his own kind of element. I don't know.
Yes, you kind of know what to expect from him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been doing great, and I've seen a lot of people questioning if we've done hippo kisses with Tucker yet. And when he first arrived, we were super excited to try that, and I showed him the giant canvas. It has to be huge to fit his mouth, and he was very nervous about it. So we immediately abandoned that. That is not a medical behavior that we like put at the top of our list to train him. So
like, this tooth care took much precedence over working on getting hippo kisses from him.
Absolutely. But I think he's at a place now where we might be able to show him a canvas again and see what happens. And maybe by the end of the year we could have a Tucker kiss, which would be really fun. But that's the reason why we had to gain a lot of trust with Tucker and get him used to things that he hadn't done in his previous zoos. And we also prioritize the ones that are like the most important, which is not cute hippo paintings. So, but maybe in the next couple of months or so, we will have kisses by Tucker. He's doing a lot. And I know Wendy just recently started on, just a few days ago, we're going to start trying blood draw training. So she was seeing how he would do with that. And we're going to train him to do like a lean-in behavior. I'll be honest, I'm kind of like, do we really want to do a blood draw from a tail with a dung showering male?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to be great.
At some point, our vet techs and whatever keepers back there, they're going to get covered one of these days. It's gonna happen.
And his tail is going to be so incredibly muscular and strong.
Yeah.
It's really hard to even hold BB or Fiona's tails if they decide like to flick it a little bit. So we'll see how it goes with Tucker, but that's what our next training update for Tucker. So we will see how that goes.
Yeah, that'll be a ton of fun for sure. So one thing I did definitely want to ask you and kind of get your thoughts on, I've gotten questions during the last couple tours I've done about, Fritz is probably going to have to leave one day. What does that look like? The people in my one tour last week were super concerned that we're going to be sending him out immediately and he's going to leave next month or anything like this. Would you talk about just like kind of the timeline there, what the thought process is, how that placement is made and why he would go to a different zoo?
Yeah, so we don't have an exact answer, but Fritz will likely leave between the ages of 3 and 5, I would say. And there are quite a few reasons for it. One, it would be natural for a juvenile male to be pushed to the outside of a bloat or even kind of go off on their own and find another pod to join, because there's a dominant bull that is very territorial and wants all the breeding rights in a pod or a bloat, and there's really not that space, right? Fritz can't just wander off if him and Tucker start like having
issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we want to be ahead of that before there were any like catastrophic fights or anything that would be, a safety concern for Fritz. And of course, we do not want any inbreeding between Fiona and Fritz are related. Mm-hmm. Tucker and Fiona are not. I just want to remind everybody of that. Tucker and Fiona are, matched genetically to, in the future, potentially breed, or they have bred to make a baby if Fiona is the right size and we deem everything safe. But we wouldn't want Fritz to breed with Fiona. We wouldn't want Fritz to breed with BB.
Yeah.
Also, the space holds 4 adult hippos. We don't feel like it would be right to have more than 4 adult hippos. So space-wise and, eventually we want Fritz's genetics to be passed on, and we can't add more hippos here, so he will go to another zoo. So all of those different reasons, so that Fritz can have his own babies, so that he isn't breeding with his relatives, and so that him and Tucker don't fight. 3 to 5, because it's easier to send a smaller hippo somewhere, also to avoid the fighting. And, we'll go off our species survival plan determines which animals, should or shouldn't breed and where they might do best. We definitely take, personality and different things, like that's a factor in it. For example, we wouldn't send a really, really nervous animal across the country and, unless it were like dire for their species to continue. Yeah. We would rather keep them close or bring an animal to them. Or, for example, BB and Tucker have moved about 3 times in each of their lives, so we plan on this being their final home, and we try to make sure that animals aren't moving too much, especially the larger ones or the social ones. So there are different things that play into it, but genetics are really important. Keeping the genetic diversity throughout zoos so that we never have to bring animals in from the wild, but so that we also have a population continuing to grow within zoos. But that's hard to do if you don't move animals.
Absolutely.
You cannot have, the genetic pool getting smaller and smaller. So it's for the hippo population in zoos. Fritz will need to leave. That's the number one reason eventually. But of course, they're typically reproductively mature between 6 and 8. So we want to just be ahead of that a little bit. We do not know where he will go right now. We do not know what zoo has room for a male hippo. That can be a tough issue because you can only have 1 adult male. So that'll be something that is started to be looked at and figured out probably in the next year or 2 where he might go. But right now we don't have any answers of
and
exactly
a lot could change
when.
between now and then.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, but rest assured, all you Fritz fanatics out there, and we're 2 of them right here, Fritz fanatics, so rest assured, he's going to be here for a few more years at least. Like, it's not like he's going to be leaving by the winter time and Fritz is gone. Like, he'll be here for a while still, and we're going to cherish every minute we have him here, for sure.
Yes. We would love for him to stay close so we can go visit. But whatever's best for him, I guess is what will happen. So,
yeah.
We will miss him a lot, but I'm sure he will have fun moving on and finding a mate someday.
Yeah. And we've still got plenty of time with him here, so we're going to have plenty of fun with him.
Definitely. He's a ton of fun. Seriously, his interest in toys and people and everything, he's a very fun hippo.
Yeah.
So we were very excited to see him turn 1. I cannot believe it's been a year.
It's wild,
It doesn't feel like it's been a year. And he's growing and smart and healthy and doing great. So
yeah. I know, it's been fun. It's been fun. And shout out to all the people that made his first birthday special. I know we had help from across the zoo. Volunteer Enrichment Committee made all the watermelon enrichment for a bunch of the animals. Like you had mentioned, like the lions got it, red pandas got it. That was a ton of fun. I mean, how many people contributed to that cake? That cake was massive, right?
Yes, I honestly don't know, but I think for Fritz's cake, you mean? I think it was mostly Barbara and one of her interns. Okay. So I don't know if it was that many people.
Some help from commissary maybe too.
Yeah, they did a lot, and Buskin donated. I think they donated the cake that people could eat.
The people could eat, yeah.
So we were too busy to go get some. We missed out. I forgot about it, but there was a lot of. There were a lot of people that put a lot of effort into it, so it was fun. It makes it really special. Like I said, you can't celebrate every single animal birthday. We can't even remember our animals' birthdays. There's 40-some in our department alone. But Fritz was definitely a big one to celebrate. So
yeah, it was special. And I can attest, because I was over there that evening of his birthday. I closed over there. I can attest he had a good birthday. And the whole bloat had a good day celebrating his birthday because they were all moving real slow at close. Normally, they're pretty antsy and ready to come in for dinner time. And, like, they all just moseyed in slowly. They'd gotten so many snacks and so many treats that day. Took them forever to finish their dinner that night. So yes, they all had a great time. Yeah,
so many extra treats. Well, again, thank you all for coming and being huge. Well, thank you all for listening, but thank you all who came to the day of, and I'm sure there were so many of you that wish you could have been there, but it was a work day, or you live far away or whatever, but everyone who sang him happy birthday and came to celebrate with us, and we definitely appreciate the fact that so many people love these hippos so much. It's very, very special. Not something many zookeepers get to experience. So no,
the support is incredible. It's indescribable. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. So we definitely appreciate all you guys supporting out there. Fritz supports it. Appreciate y'all showing him the love. Appreciate it.
He has really cute t-shirts in the gift shop right now if anybody needs a new t-shirt.
Oh, he does, yeah.
All right, well, thank you all for listening to Cincinnati Zoo Tales.
Yeah, until next time.
Have a good day.
Yep, we'll talk to you later.